Good morning, dear students. Welcome to my channel. And once again, we are here with our third video. And we have Deep Water chapter today, written by William O. Douglas. We'll do a quick revision of this chapter for CBSE board examinations. So, what do we see? We are going to cover about the author, the theme, characters, summary, key points. We are going to skip a bit, vocab, points to ponder, and of course, the most important assignment questions. Let's start the video. About the author, first of all, this chapter is a non-fiction written by a jury, a judge himself. So let us see what exactly we can understand about this author. William Douglas was born in Maine, Minnesota. After graduating with bachelor's in English honors and economics, he spent 2 years teaching in a high school. But of course, as youngsters, he got bored. And guess what he joined later? However, he got tired of this and decided to pursue a legal career. That's how he ended up becoming a judge. He met Franklin D. Roosevelt, the president, and became an advisor and friend to him. Later, he was leading advocate of individual rights. He retired in 1975 with a term lasting 36 years in the court. The following excerpt is taken of this chapter. Men and Mountain was the book written by him, and from that, Deep Water is a part, a subpart. And what do we learn? In this essay, he talks about his fear of water and thereafter how he finally overcome it. This chapter is not just about the problem he faced, but rather about how he overcome this problem. Let's see. If we look at the introduction part, so what we can see, Deep Water in his excerpt from Men and Mountains may come as a one-marker question from the RTC. A psychoanalytical study of fear. What happens when we pass through such kind of experience? It reveals how fear can paralyze a normal person mentally and also the ways to overcome it. That is more important. The lesson emphasizes on the significance of one's desire to fulfill one's passion, supported by meticulous planning and the never say die attitude. The title Deep Water is quite justified and reveals deep psychological imprint of fear in the author's mind. Somehow I relate with this chapter. I used to have the fear of getting bullied when I used to be in school, but later on I turned out to be a wrestler. I did a lot of hard work and practice, and then, of course, you know the story. Then let us move forward. What happens in this story? We see in this autobiographical, please underline this term, our autobiographical over here will come for 1 marks. Deepwater, the author recollects a horrifying experience at Y.M.C.A. swimming pool. What happened to him when he was around 11 or 12 years old. Y.M.C.A. is Young Men Christian Association. The incident left a deep psychological imprint in his mind. He was so terrified that he avoided water for a long time. However, he was passionate about swimming and he made up his mind to overcome the fear of swimming. Later on, let us see what happens. The theme of this chapter is a real life personal account of experiencing fear and the steps taken to overcome it. The sub theme is psychological analysis of fear. The plot, aversion to water initially, later on, overcoming the fear and the realization. The characters we have William O. Douglas, the writer himself, the narrator and the protagonist, his mother, who was telling him not to go near the water bodies, an 18-year-old boy, this was the bully he faced, and the instructor who taught him to overcome the fear of water by swimming. Moving further with a summary of this particular story, it talks about how terrifying memories of childhood may haunt you forever, even when you grow up, if you choose not to fight it. What happened over here? It lurk in the mind, continue to lurk in the mind of the author and rob one of all the confidences. It is imperative to make deliberate planned efforts if you really want to get over the fear of something. So here what happened when he was 4, William Douglas was 4 years old, he was knocked down. Incident number 1 will come for 2 marks question. Which incident left an imprint of fear in the mind of Douglas? That was when he was around 4 years old. He was knocked down by a wave on the beach of California. But a difference, if a question comes about a misadventure, so that question is not from 3 or 4 years of age. That question is from Y.M.C.A. pool at the age of 12. So what was the misadventure? William was sitting alone at the pool waiting for others to arrive. A bully, a boy of 18 years of age, came over there and threw him down into the deep end of the pool. William struggled. How? The stark terror seized him. He tried to shout but could not because the water was getting inside his body. He went down the pool for second time. He tried to jump upward, but it was sheer waste of energy. Third time, light was going out and there was no more panic because by that time he has lost his consciousness. Somehow somebody saved him. But what was the result? The result was he started terrifying water. He started being afraid of going nearby the water bodies, and it has taken few good years of his life to understand he should not fear water, rather he should fight water's fear. And what happened? The instructor taught him swimming piece by piece. He went to different lakes to swim and found tiny vestiges of fear still crippling him. He challenged the fear and swam. So here a two-marker question will come, how the instructor turned him into a good swimmer. So he taught him piece by piece, and within 3 months' time, he started learning how to swim all by himself in the pool. But later he challenged himself and went to different lakes to find out whether he can do all this alone by himself. And yes, he did it. He overcome that thing. So he realized that in death there is peace. This is the last lesson when the chapter ends. That there is peace and there is terror only in the fear of death. Will to live is stronger than the fear of death. And what you see, let us skip these pointers because we have already discussed the pointers. Let us move on towards more important things. Here you can see the real life pictures of Douglas. Yes, the pictures of when he was young, the pictures of the pool, the Y.M.C.A. pool, the pictures of a boy drowning. You can actually see him years later when he grew up, the pictures of him with his family. Here here you can see him doing fishing, here him seeing with his family enjoying the lakeside view. So these all pictures depict the life of William Douglas near the water, what he used to be afraid of initially and what he overcome and how he became the part of it, the part of nature. He enjoyed his life. These are the points to ponder, the overall points we have discussed today. The authors plan to learn to swim at Yakima YMCA pool. Aversion to water resurfaces when he was thrown into the pool. The start off at the pool, the misadventure. Douglas planned to save himself, which of course was a failure. Douglas' experience of drowning may come as a two-marker question. Efforts to survive. Ceasing of all the efforts in the end. Effects of the experience, which kept on with him for many years later. Determination to overcome the fear, stories changing over here. The training lessons by the instructor, which turned him out into a good swimmer. And finally, the larger, deeper meaning of life. Only thing to fear is fear itself. Never to stop, but to fight. And let us now come on to the most important questions of this chapter. So if you look at the questions over here, the first one is, how is Douglas' childhood fear different from that of Kamla Das? Here the question is about the comparison between two different chapters. Yes, in CBSE they will ask you questions like this. Kamla Das' fear of childhood was losing the parents, and his fear of childhood was losing himself in the water. What was the psychological impact of fear? We have already answered that he started having aversion to water, afraid of water. What is the larger meaning that the author draws from his experience? That all you have to fear is fear itself. If you make efforts, every single thing, every single fear or challenge can be overcome. Why was Douglas determined to overcome his fear? Because he loved water. He loved to enjoy all those things what the other people were doing at that time, the water activities. How did Douglas get rid of all the residual fear? By swimming into the lakes and going into different areas where the bigger water bodies were challenging him and doing it all by himself, testing his strength. How did the author develop his aversion to water? Of course, the aversion was developed when he was 3 or 4 years old and he was knocked down by a wave. This was the aversion. And the misadventure changed this aversion and he now became afraid of water. How did the instructor build him into a swimmer? We have already answered this question. What were the series of emotions and fears? This answer will be of 2 to 5 marks, and you have to answer about all the three steps. First, when he went down and the fear was coming and all those emotions of terror coming to him. And second time when he was going down, he was planning to come up, jump up. Third time he lost it all and it was all peaceful for him. Deep Water by William Douglas is a saga of perseverance and courage. Very, very important question. Of course, the entire story is telling us about how he fought and overcome the fear of water. And with that, we come to the end of this particular chapter. I hope all of you might have been able to understand a bit of it. Thank you.